Hi everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about making a histogram and a column chart and a pie chart in Excel. Sometimes it's good to have a visual representation of the data so you can kind of see it visually how the data looks. I know we talked previously about measures of central tendency, the mean, median, and mode, and those are measures in the center. And then we talked about measures of dispersion, the variation, the standard deviations, and things like that, and how things disperse from the mean or the mode or the median actually. So today we're going to get the visual representations of that. The histogram is a good place to start. Hopefully y'all were able to download this data analysis tool. Y'all will need it to do a histogram here. And I created this example SAT scores. These are all fake, and I just kind of made them up real quickly and went down the line here to make a histogram for using these SAT scores. But the one thing about Excel is you need to know the intervals you kind of want to look at for a histogram, because in a histogram they kind of lump things together, like all numbers between 0 and 5, 6 and 10, 11 and 14, 11 and 15, and so forth, right? That would fall into that class interval. Excel calls them bins, and it's easier for you to know it beforehand, kind of the range you want to look at. Generally, you want to look at the lowest number. I think I got about 870 here, and I think I go up to about 1500. So I'll start at about 800, and I want my intervals to be about 40, so I'll go to 840 here. And the good thing about Excel, so you see I have 800 and 840 here, I'll just highlight the two here, and I'll drag it down until I get to about 1500. And then once I do that, I'll have these bins created, these class intervals, okay? And that's what they are, essentially. And then you want to go ahead and highlight the data you want to look at. Go to your data analysis tool here, open it up, and you got histograms. And I click OK. So the input range, this is the input range here, this data column. See how it goes from A1 to A40? That's correct. Since I highlighted the label here, it's going to say SAT scores. I'll click on that. Now the bin range, I created the bin range. It's going to be from C2 to C20, as you can see it there. I also want a chart output because it's going to give me a frequency distribution, and I'm also going to get the graphic as well. So, and I want to see the cumulative percentage. You don't necessarily need that, but do that. And then the output range, just click here, and this is where everything's going to appear once it runs the analysis for you. Okay, so I click OK. Some data will be hidden. That's fine. So this is my frequency distribution that it prints out for me. These are the intervals, 840. I have one falling within that range, one in 880 to 920, and then so forth, right? Here's the graphic itself, the histogram itself. You can kind of enlarge it, and then you can go through and kind of mess around with it. I'm not going to get too much into it today, but you can look at it. And this line here gives you the cumulative percentage. So based on the numbers here, see that the median, the middle number, falls between here, right? Because it's less than 50% and well, greater than 50% and less than 49, right? So that's the middle right here. That's where the median would be, between 1080 and 1120, I think, right? Would be in here, would be the median. And that's the median value for this data set. And that's the histogram. And we can do more with this. I know we talked about skewness before, which is important. This isn't normally distributed. It generally isn't. One way to look at it, understanding the skew of the data is kind of important. Let's see, and you can do that really quick. You can type a skew function and then just highlight the columns you want, A2 through A40. And by that number being positive, we know it's positively skewed. Now, that's something you can't necessarily see by this graphic alone, but sometimes you'll be able to see it. Now, if you go back and remember, here's what skewness, this is symmetric. If it's positive value, means the mean's more than the median, right? If it was negatively skewed, the mean would be less than the median. But here we know we have a positively skewed distribution. This is common in criminal justice data sets and victimization data sets. Some people report being victimized once or twice, or maybe not at all, or drug use even. Some people might report 0 to 1 or 2 uses of drugs. And then some people are going to report using drugs every day of the year. So you might get 365. So that's a positively skewed data set. And that can be problematic depending on the type of analysis that you'll talk about later when looking at regression models and trying to find an appropriate model and stuff that fit data to. Negatively skewed data, that might be, an example would be grades in this course, where people the averages tend to be, the MO might be up here in the 90s, and the more likely score might be an A or a high B or something like that, and it gets to 100, but somebody gets a 20 or something, and that pulls the mean down. Remember we talked about outliers and how that has a big influence on that. So that's the skew, and that's how this data set looks, and that's a quick representation of a histogram. It's useful to look at, and you might need to include it in a paper or something that you're looking at some days. Now, you can go and use these tools and kind of manipulate that. I'm not going to really mess with it too much right now, but I am going to show you just real quickly how to make a column chart. I got this, made up this data based on religion, and here we're just going to use a column chart. It's good for looking at numbers really quickly. Here you can go through and change it around and manipulate the chart so it fits your, what looks good to you and what looks best to you. I don't really necessarily have a preference, but every day set kind of looks different. I kind of like this because you have the numbers at the side and the numbers in the column, so we know that 27 are Protestant, 18 Catholic, and other, right, and all that type of stuff. So and you can also manipulate this chart. We can say religion, just title it. Sorry. All right. So you can do that as well, and you can mess around and change the intervals over here if you needed to. If you wanted to change the labels down here, if you wanted to change the color scheme, you can also do that as well. Now, simply we can do a pie chart, just almost as simple. We can do a 2D pie chart. Move the chart over here, and then you can change how this pie chart looks as well. So it fits your needs, fits whatever you want it to look like graphically. Here, I guess that would look fine for us for the purposes of here. And you can just see real quickly percentages wise, right? And this gives the percentages here. And then look at pie charts like a big pie, right? And somebody's getting the bigger piece. You can see by the color scheme here which one is, and so forth. So just kind of mess around with these tools a little bit and apply them to the exercise you got going on, and hopefully this is useful for you guys. Have a good one.